I looked at literally every single statue at all 30 MLB stadiums, and I am here to tell you what my top 10 statues are, so buckle up, it's gonna be a good one. This is Sean, and for the first time ever, this is my top 10 best statues in MLB history. Number 10, we have the Connie Mack statue at Citizens Bank Ballpark in Philadelphia. Before I get into it, I just want to break my criteria down. I usually do this off of vibes anyways, but if you really want to know, I favored statues that either made players look larger than life and statues that celebrated historic moments in a franchise's history. I think it's really cool to get a statue built of you, and I think it's even cooler if that statue is so iconic that it'll stop anyone in their tracks and make them wonder what the origin is, or a statue that immortalizes a moment that fans will never forget. So it may be odd that my first choice is a manager, and you could also be wondering, like, what the hell is he holding? I wasn't really sure what to think about this one at first either, but I looked more into it, and I saw lots of pictures of him holding his lineup card or whatever that was. So the statue fits the manager, and the manager was legendary. It just sucks that he was a manager for the A's, who are in Oakland for who knows how long. And the statue is in Philadelphia. The A's ownership sucks, so they don't really have any statues either. So this would be cool if the statue was in Oakland, but it's a cool statue nonetheless. Now, in my worst statues video, you'll learn I hate when there's statues of people who aren't actually players at stadiums, but Connie Mack deserves it. This isn't like most manager statues, which are just boring, like the manager standing there or something. He's on the top step of the dugout. He's holding the lineup card. I think it'll make you stop in your tracks. He's legendary, and that's why he's number 10. My ninth favorite statue is the Going to the Show statue at the new ballpark in Arlington, Texas. This statue is of Rangers closer Neftali Feliz and catcher Benji Molina celebrating the final out of the 2010 ALCS. And it's pretty detailed. I love the action of Neftali's foot flying off the floor. The hug looks great in midair. But if you know me, you may be thinking, Sean, why do you like this statue of a team who is celebrating making it out of the semifinals in a year when they didn't even win the World Series? Well, let me tell you the real reason. Benji Molina was my first favorite baseball player. I began watching regularly in 2008 during the years of Fred Lewis and Randy Wynn and Tim Lincecum, Randy Johnson. That's when I started watching baseball, and out of all those players, Benji Molina was my favorite. So in 2010, when we traded him to the Rangers, I was heartbroken. Obviously, I felt a lot better at the end of the season, especially when I knew Benji was going to get a ring no matter who won. But learning that he now had a statue immortalizing the year my favorite team won the World Series, I had to have it on this list. I also take facial expressions into account, and if you're making a statue recreating a moment, I want the faces to look good. I think they look good in this picture. You can see the excitement. And this statue makes Benji really happy, which automatically makes me really happy. I love it. Now, moment statues are usually saved for a World Series win. If the Rangers were willing to give one to a moment that didn't even win them the whole thing, I can only imagine they have one ready to go for their 2023 victory. Can't wait to see what it looks like. This is a fun statue overall, and I'm happy to have it at my number 9 spot. At number 8, I have the White Sox Paul Konerko Grand Slam statue. Now, this is how you do a moment statue. This was from a Grand Slam from Game 2 of the World Series that the White Sox would eventually win in 2005. And I think it's great. A franchise's iconic World Series moment, forever immortalized in bronze. This is what a moment statue should be. They nailed it. I will admit the face does look a little weird, but they nailed the body. If you've seen this home run before, you know this looks exactly like it. It's pretty good. I promise this is not just me making up for having the White Sox Stadium on my top 5 worst stadium list, but I gotta hand it to the White Sox. They do a phenomenal job making statues. I would talk more about this statue, but believe it or not, Paul Konerko is actually also next on the list. Number 7 is the White Sox 2005 World Series Monument statue. And this statue is the inspiration for this entire list. When I was making my very first set of videos, the best and worst MLB stadiums, I found this statue researching one of my worst stadiums, the White Sox Stadium, and I remember thinking the statue was so cool, I had to find a way to put it in the video. I gave a little teaser with the Juan Uribe part, but now I'm happy I get to finally talk about the whole thing. The 2005 World Series win by the White Sox is forgotten by most baseball fans, and I know how it feels as a Giants fan, considering the average fan today cannot name many iconic moments from our dynasty's run. But I'm really glad that they were able to make this statue so the White Sox can get a whole new generation of fans curious about this team. Here we have that Paul Konerko Grand Slam mentioned earlier, and yes, he has another statue of this moment. There he is, mid-swing, hitting that Grand Slam. Here's Joe Creed's big double in the World Series on the statue as well. I totally knew about this moment before, guys. You gotta trust me. No way I figured it out as I was researching this video. That's a ridiculous claim. I can't believe you guys were thinking that. Here is San Francisco Giants legend Juan Uribe, who deserves a statue from 2010, but that's besides the point. Here he is, diving into the crowd, making a great catch in the World Series. Jeff Blum is on the statue, hitting a big home run from that World Series against the Astros as well. And finally, Orlando Hernandez, El Duque, whatever you want to call him. I completely forgot about this guy. I had no idea he was ever on the White Sox, let alone won a World Series with them, let alone had a big enough moment to get on a fucking statue. And the funniest thing is, this isn't even from the World Series. Apparently, he had some really amazing relief outings in the ALCS against the Red Sox. I'm not going back to watch that. So tell me, did you watch this game? How great was he? I'll tell you what is great, this statue. More teams need to start doing something like this. There are too many teams who win the World Series, and besides a banner, there's no fanfare. That is a huge deal. I think you should celebrate that with a statue, and this is the model teams should follow. Great job, White Sox. Number 6 is the Ted Williams statue at Fenway Park. Ted Williams was not only one of the greatest baseball players in history, but he was more influential in early cancer research than most people realize. In the 40s, cancer was almost 100% a death sentence for a child, and Ted Williams would visit hundreds of children bedside from when he was playing up until he died in 2002. There are many stories about him going to children's hospitals and asking reporters not to report about it, or him paying for an entire family's bills. So, having this as his statue to represent him at Fenway Park is perfect. It's so iconic. He may have won 2 MVPs. He may have won 2 Triple Crowns. He may be the major league leader in on-base percentage. He may be in the San Diego Padres Hall of Fame. But this is how they chose to depict him. Not with a bat, not with a glove, but giving back to children in need. Ted Williams, an amazing player, an amazing human. This is my number 6. Number 5 is Phil Niekro at the Braves' brand new stadium. Phil was one of the first ever knuckleballers to make it big in the major leagues. He's a Hall of Famer. He had a very long career. I had no idea he had a statue, and it's fucking awesome. They just nailed that classic knuckleball grip, digging your fingers into the ball. That's honestly the first thing I think of whenever I hear his name. When I first saw he had a statue, I was thinking to myself, they have to get this hand right, and they got it perfect. The stride is pretty great too. That might not sound like much, but you'll be surprised at how many pitcher statues look really awkward or just uninteresting. But this one passes my test. It's a pretty great statue. As someone who didn't get to watch him while he was playing, however, I wasn't too sure if he was worthy of a statue, but he's a Hall of Famer. He had such a great, long career. He definitely deserves one. But this is the real reason it's on the list. It's a fucking knuckleball statue. That's amazing. So yeah, my first solo pitcher on the list, it's Phil Niekro. Great statue. Number 4 is Al Kaline at Detroit Tiger Stadium. I feel dumb because until recently, I didn't realize the Tigers had such a great statue lineup. And when I say lineup, I don't mean the players on the statues. I just mean how they have them all in a line in that left field area. How have I always slept on that? I've kind of always known it's there. I've seen it out of the corner of my eye, but I've never directed my focus to this area, and it's fucking great. But Al Kaline steals the show, jumping up, making a catch. It's very fitting that the best statue goes to the man with the nickname Mr. Tiger. I am going to put so much more respect on this statue in the future. Some teams like to do this static effect to make it look like players are moving, kind of like that Neftali Feliz one earlier. The Tigers tried it on some of theirs, and they did a very good job compared to some other teams. I'd also like to add, up close, the statue looks just as good from far away. Seeing it from any point in the ballpark, it's pretty great. It's iconic. That's what makes it number 4. Number 3, we have our final pitcher on the list, and it is Bob Gibson and his iconic follow-through. Nobody threw a baseball like Bob Gibson threw a baseball, and for one of the best players in baseball history, they nailed the statue. They could have made him a little bigger, but that's my only complaint. This thing is really great. If you don't know who he is before seeing it, you're definitely looking up who is this crazy looking guy and figuring out how badass Bob was. I told you I'm taking the faces into account, and they kept the intense expression that he was known for. He's locked in, he's ready to go, and the statue shows. It looks just like Bob Gibson. You know what? I am going to make another nitpick. This could be higher on the list if it wasn't in such a weird area of the stadium. I'm going to let you know right now, the Cardinals are going to be on my worst list a lot in the next video, and I have a bone to pick with a lot of the statues they've been producing. Bob Gibson saves that stadium from being a disaster. Bob, you rock. You got your great statue. My number 2 greatest statue is Bill Mazeroski in Pittsburgh. He's a 2-time World Series champion. He's a Hall of Famer. He hit a home run to win the World Series, the biggest home run anyone could ever hit. They put it in a beautiful spot right outside the stadium, right next to the river. It's capturing such an iconic moment in Pittsburgh Pirate franchise history. It's huge. I love this one. I told you I love when a statue immortalizes a moment, and this one has the classic Bill Mazeroski pose, waving his helmet in the air, so excited, hitting this huge home run. When I started getting into baseball more and learned about this moment, I thought it was one of the coolest things ever, and finding out it had a statue, even better. Unlike the Bob Gibson one, this one is like 3 times the size of an actual person. It is massive, larger than life, making the moment itself larger than life, which I really appreciate. This statue made me realize I really do want every team to have at least one statue of their franchise's best moment. Maybe Benji Molina softened me up to this idea, but it really should happen. Get a young generation seeing these statues, getting curious what that moment is, digging into the history, and becoming lifelong fans. Bill Mazeroski himself was there when the statue was unveiled. Bonus points for that. I shouldn't have to explain more why this is my number 2. Before we get to number 1, I have to tell you there were so many cool statues I could not put on this list, so I'm going to go rapid fire, a few seconds about each of these, and I invite you to look into them more if you find them interesting. These are my honorable mentions. Nolan Ryan when he got 5,000 strikeouts. Tom Vandergriff, not a random guy, look him up. Hank Greenberg, they did a great job making it look like he was hitting a ball. The audience, one of the only good things about Blue Jays Stadium. Babe Ruth statue in his hometown of Baltimore. Bob Uecker. Brooks Robinson had a lot of gold gloves, and they gave him a gold glove. Carl Yastrzemski, the plaque says Yaz. They made Carlton Fisk look really scary. Charles Comiskey looks like that should be his name. Children's Hospital wishing well that would make Ted Williams proud. The Chicago Cubs put a tinge of blue on their statues, and I really like it. You can sit next to Dave Niehaus, and his sayings are behind him. Dizzy Dean has a silly name and pose. Edgar Martinez has a great swing follow-through. This Frank Thomas statue makes me happy. Frank White looks really cool throwing this baseball. If Harold Baines is somehow a Hall of Famer, at least they gave him a cool statue. This Jackie Robinson statue looks like it's in motion. Jerry Coleman was a military pilot. Juan Marichal has an iconic windup. They nailed Ken Griffey Jr.'s sweet swing. Kent Urbeck caught the final out of the World Series. If Ozzie Smith isn't doing a backflip, I guess this is fine. Pete Rose, sliding. Sandy Koufax, another iconic windup. Teammates, look into it. Ted Kluszewski had arms so big he had to cut his sleeves, which became the inspiration for the iconic Braves cut sleeve jerseys. Tom Seaver, great pose, great location. Love the patina on Trevor Hoffman's statue. Willie Horton, another one of the Tigers' amazing statues. And finally, Willie McCovey right next to McCovey Cove. The moment you've been waiting for. This is Sean, and this is my favorite MLB statue. Number 1 is Kirby Puckett. It's Kirby Puckett hitting his Game 6 home run to keep the Twins alive, forcing a Game 7, which they would eventually win. He was a key part of a Twins team that won their first 2 World Series in 63 years. Similar to Bill Mazeroski, when I learned about Kirby Puckett's home run, I thought it was one of the coolest moments I had ever seen, and they definitely did it justice with this statue. This looks just like the moment. The pure excitement on his face after keeping his team alive in the World Series has made this a favorite moment of mine, and I'm so happy that they captured the same emotion in the statue. Another positive, this statue is the perfect size. It is just big enough to feel larger than life. If you take a picture next to it, your center of focus is the statue, unless you're an 8-foot-tall basketball player, and I think that's how it should be. This statue is also really easy for fans to access and take pictures with. It's in a great location right at one of the gates to the stadium. Need I say more? This is my number one. It's amazing. And that's my list. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I read every single comment and usually respond to most of them, unless you piss me off. I cannot wait to release my next video, the top 10 worst statues. But until then, please subscribe if you enjoyed the video. This is Sean, and that was my top 10.